Welcome back into Main Street Living. We are celebrating Earth Month this April. And if you've paid much attention to Mother Nature, you know that she has an amazing way of weaving all of Earth's creatures together. In one way or another, everything touches everything else.
That's right, Danielle. In fact, we're talking about a great example of that today because bees might seem like insignificant insects, but the impact they have on our planet is huge. In fact, Steve Blackledge is here to share some tips on how we can help save the bees. Welcome to Main Street Living, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, well, glad to have you on here. But let's start from the beginning here. Like, why are bees so important?
Well, bees are nature's absolute best pollinators, and it's what they do, and they're really good at it. 90% of all flowering plants and 75% of all food crops need animal pollinators, and again, bees are the best. So when any of us look at a hillside filled with wildflowers or sit down for dinner, we have bees to thank for that.
Okay.
Well, there have been a lot of reports lately about bees being in trouble. So what are some of the issues that bees are facing out there?
Yeah, there's about 4,000 native bee species in the U.S., and one report recently found that 1 in 4 of them is sliding toward extinction. And honeybees aren't faring better. They're dying at record levels in recent years. And so scientists say there's a lot of factors leading to this for bee die-offs, including pesticides, including global warming, habitat loss, and even disease. And these factors sometimes work on bees in combination. So you'll have like global warming and habitat loss together, kind of having a 1-2 punch on bees, or perhaps pesticides make bees more susceptible to disease. And for bees, there's a lot we need to fix to help save the bees.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a huge problem. You were just talking about the pesticides. Obviously, we're probably not going to turn all of our viewers into beekeepers, but there's got to be some ways that we can, help the bees. So what can the viewers do or not do to keep their neighborhood bees safe?
Right. There's a lot of things that all of us can do. Number one, there's a class of pesticides called neonicotinoids, or sometimes called neonics, that has been linked in particular to bee die-offs. And seven eastern states, thankfully, have greatly restricted the sale or use of these bee killers, and we're working to convince other states to do the same. Plus, there are big brand stores like Home Depot and Lowe's that are in the process of or have actually banned the sale of these neonics from their store shelves. And we're hoping that a big online retailer, Amazon, can do the same. But in the meantime, we can all avoid using these pesticides in our yards. They're, again, called neonics. But one of the challenges is that they all have these funny, unpronounceable names. And I might butcher this one. But imidacloprid is an example of a neonic. So it's hard for consumers to know what they're dealing with here. So really the biggest tip is to stop using or greatly reduce the use of pesticides of any sort in your yard. Keeping in mind that all of these pesticides are designed to kill something. And so whether it's a weed killer or an insect killer, these things are chemicals that are best to avoid. And if a problem does come up, the first thing to do is look for a non-toxic alternative. So for example, the old Farmer's Almanac recommends soapy water if you have an aphid problem in your garden.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's so important, especially a lot of people are moving towards that green, non-toxic everywhere in their house. So it might as well extend it out into your yard. Now they're not poisoning them. What are some other things you can do to help support the bees?
Well, right. And the good news is there's some things that we as a society are already doing, and that's great. So for instance, the federal bipartisan infrastructure bill that Congress passed last fall and was signed has $2 million a year for states. It's a grant program for states to plant bee-friendly and pollinator-friendly vegetation along roadsides. And we need more programs like that one. And we can do the same thing in our yards. We can plant native plants, flowering plants, different types of flowering plants. Bees like a variety. And so don't just plant one. Plant some that flower in the spring, some that flower in the midsummer, some late summer. And if you like the plant, chances are the bees are going to like it too.
Okay, so which plants are the easiest to grow and the most helpful to the bees?
The key thing here is to look at native plants, and flowering plants. So there are examples like sunflowers that are good for bees, or even an herb garden can be really good for bees, as long as you let some of the herbs flower, because of course that's what bees really love. But a variety is what you're looking for. So if people can go into the local nursery and ask for native plants and ask for a variety of plants, they're going to be in good shape as it relates to bees.
Nice.
So I have to talk about it, of course. Now, some people, they don't want to get stung by bees. Some people may be allergic. What's the best way to avoid getting stung?
Well, bees are more than happy to avoid us too. So it's kind of mutual in that sense, and that's good. So the key thing is just give them some space, don't panic, and let them go about their business of being busy bees, flying from flower to flower. Now, the one other tip that I'd recommend is if you're in your flower garden, or around flowering plants, wear shoes, because bees are often on the ground, and one of the quickest ways to get stung is to step on one. But overall, give them some space, don't panic. Bees will be happy buzzing from flower to flower.
Gotcha. And it sounds like bees have a bigger role in the food chain than just making us honey. So do you think it's possible to turn this around and save the bees?
I actually don't think we have a choice. I mean, bees are so important to the planet. Whole ecosystems would be severely harmed if we lost nature's best pollinators, which again are bees. And our dinner plates would be harmed. So if you love apples or avocados or almonds, just to name some of the A foods only, you have bees to thank. So we can't let this happen. We can't lose bees.
Where can viewers go to get more information about how to support the busy bees in their neighborhood?
There's a lot of options out there. I recommend going to a nursery and calling a few, maybe some local, smaller nurseries, and finding someone who's knowledgeable about flowering plants and bees. And I also recommend the internet. There's loads of bad information there, but there's so much good information as well. And just a quick Google search like plants that are good for bees, and you'll have pages upon pages of information there.
Great tips. Thank you so much there, Steve Blackledge. We certainly appreciate you stopping by on Main Street Living today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, Danielle, while the bees are flying, people like us are driving. And up next, we're going to show you a car wash that's kind of cool here on the planet. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.